You are listening to WVEB Truthsharks Radio. Well. Hello, everyone out there in these podcasting streets, and welcome to Black by Color Only, a division of the Truthsharks Radio Network. I hope today finds you doing well. I am your host and friend, the Sand Tiger, DJ Southeast Vince, coming at you from a place called Durham, North Carolina. This show will discuss topics that affect the so-called Black nation, whatever that is. And if you happen to be a fruit bat, beware, because this shark is in the water. How you folks doing today? I know everybody is aware of the big news that's going on today, and that has to do with this winter storm. And we here in Durham, North Carolina, haven't seen anything on this magnitude for years. And we're supposed to be getting, I don't know if it's going to be snow, but they're talking about sleet and ice. And I'm still kind of, I'm kind of gun shy about the ice, because in 2002, December of 2002, just a little over 23 years ago, we had an ice storm come through here, and my power was out for a week. And this was before I met my wife and everything. But surprisingly enough, she was living in the same apartment division that I was living in. I didn't think that she would be my wife ever, but she said she remembers it too. And our power was out for a week, and it was kind of miserable. And I'm hoping our power doesn't go out this time either. It's looking pretty bad. It is freezing out there. It is cold. I mean, this cold just goes straight to your soul. And my wife she's working at Target right now. I don't know if they'll let her go out early or whatever, but we haven't had any precipitation start yet. But it's supposed to start sometime within the next half hour or hour or so. It's supposed to last into Monday. And, I'm a little concerned because Monday, it's not a holiday, but we might be out of work for Monday at least. But anyway, just looking forward to that. And it hasn't started yet, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. But I'm here on the show, ready to get this thing started. Fruit bats are out and this shark is hungry. But anyway, you all, we've had several things happening this week. And one of the biggest news from this week was the incident that happened this past Sunday in Minneapolis when a group of knuckleheads, invaded this church during the church service. They came into the church and they just disrupted the entire church service. And they were led by a woman. I forgot her name. Let me see if I can find her name. Let's see. Nakima Levy Armstrong. And she's one of these activists in Minnesota. She helped to put together the protests against the killing of George Floyd, which, folks, if you're listening to the show and you say that George Floyd was murdered, you are a bonehead, okay? That ship has sailed, hit the iceberg, sunk, and now it lies 2.5 miles underwater, okay? You are a bonehead if you think George Floyd was murdered, okay? So, but anyway, these knuckleheads, they bust into this church, disrupt the service, and and one of the protesters among them was, you all know him as Don Lemon. He used to be a correspondent on CNN for some years before he got fired for some things he said and whatever. But I call him Don Lemonade because you know what lemonade is made of. Lemonade So you start with the lemon juice, but then you water it down and you add some sugar to it. And that's why I call him Don Lemonade, because dude is a homosexual. He has a white homosexual partner, and but folks like them, they are some of the biggest hypocrites you ever meet. It gets frustrating watching them on TV and the newscasts and whatever. They get up there and they act so self-righteous, they're so narcissistic, and they think they know everything. They think they know the Constitution, even though they're always trying to suppress the Constitution. But they get up there talking about they know the Constitution and everything, and Don Lemon is just as smug as he wants to be. But what they did on Sunday, they broke the law called the FACE Act, and the FACE Act, it was pushed by Democrats because wanted um, they wanted people to stop protesting in front of abortion clinics, and they come up with the FACE Act. And that was supposed to keep people from protesting in front of abortion clinics, but they added, you're not supposed to disrupt the church or anything. And see, this is the thing too. It seems like a lot of these laws that the Democrats want to push, it ends up biting them in the tail. Y'all remember when they were pushing for the body cams and everything? They were pushing for them body cams, but now the body cams are revealing that a lot of things that they thought would be exposed have not been exposed. They are the ones being exposed. And people out here, I hope you got your body cam on. Yeah, I got my body cam on. You think my body cam's gonna show anything different than what's happening? But now this is bitten them in the butt. And what they did, they broke the law. They came in, they disrupted the church service, came right in the middle of the church service. And I know a lot of you all are probably thinking about that man who busted in on Jamal Bryant's church last week. And you think that's the same thing, but he didn't disrupt the service. He was out in the vestibule. He didn't come right into the sanctuary and shut down the church service like these guys did. But I want you all to listen to how smug and how ignorant Don Lemon is. I want you all to hear this, because this is one of the main reasons why. This is one of the main reasons why I tend to get a little frustrated with these folks, because they are some of the biggest hypocrites. They believe that the laws are for everybody else, but not for them. So listen to this.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will.
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay, that's why we're here. That's what we're about.
Do you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
no
Christian?
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to.
Unless you're here to worship. Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so you listen to that, and you hear Don Lemon getting up saying we have a right to protest and to assemble because the Constitution says so. One thing you have to understand about a person's rights: you can exercise those rights as long as they don't infringe on somebody else's rights. Okay. And Don Lemon, he gets up there, he says, I'm a journalist. He's not a journalist, he's an activist. He's an activist that disguises himself as a journalist. But the man is not a journalist. He's a dork. Okay. And he gets up there talking about he's a Christian. That man is not a Christian. If you call yourself a Christian and you think it is all right to go into a church of another Christian, to disrupt their services, I would really question your Christianity. And he said we had the right, the freedom to assemble, and all this and everything. But no, there goes my Pookie again. Hey, Pook. Hey there, girl. But they get up here and they get all caught up in their feelings and they think they can just disrupt anything. But let's turn the tables. Let's say this pastor of this church was to go into a Muslim mosque and disrupt their services. Would you be so forgiving then? Would you be like, oh, freedom of speech and freedom of assembly? No, they wouldn't. And that shows you the hypocrisy in these rascals. These are some of the most hypocritical people in the world. Now, when this came out, the cry went out that these people should be arrested. And I agreed, they should be arrested and have the book thrown at them. And when I heard that, because so many decades and everything, you see these people getting up here in people's faces and causing disruptions and whatever, and nothing is ever done. And I was like, you know what? They ain't going to do nothing. They're not going to do anything. But lo and behold, Nakima Levy Armstrong was arrested along with someone else. And Don Lemon hasn't been arrested yet. And he said that he didn't know that they were going to do this, but yet and still he went along with them. Instead of saying, hey, y'all, no, let's not do this. Let's not do this. He went full bore with them. And I'm sitting there like, okay, Don Lemon needs to be arrested too. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong because Don Lemon is such a, Don Lemonade. I mean, he is such a big name in the news, which he is not a journalist or anything like that. But he needs to be arrested as well because he was in on it. He was not an innocent bystander or just standing by and just watching what was going on. And he thought what was going on was right. He thought, the protesters were justified in going into that church and disrupting their services. I saw a picture of a child crying in his father's arms, terrorizing, because the child felt terrified. And the excuse is, oh well, that's how those children of them people being detained by ICE, that's how they feel. Now they know how they feel. No, this is a different situation. But these people are so smug and so full of themselves, it ticks me off. It really does. And so, from what I heard, Don Lemon is not out of the woods yet as far as getting arrested. But I don't think anything's going to happen. They'll probably just get a slap on the wrist and that'll be it. But it's all right to arrest January 6th protesters because they committed an evil crime and all that and everything. But these people come in here disrupting a man's because they suspected that he was a director of ICE, and he probably was. But that gave you no reason to go in and disrupt the church service because he probably wasn't even talking about his job as an ICE agent or whatever during the service. And you heard the pastor saying this is unacceptable, and Don Lemon with his old smug self talking about don't push me. Dude, if I was in a church and you came in there like, yeah, I would push you, dude. And you got a problem with it, you're gonna get a soup bone to your chin. Cause this, yeah. And you can call it assault and everything all you want to. You assaulted that church by busting in on their service. And you need to go to jail. They need to treat you just like the January 6th protesters were treated. That's just how you need to be treated. But these rascals, they are. And see, here's the thing that bothers me. Here's the main thing. Here's the main thing that bothers me are the people that support these folks, the voters. This is the thing that really, really bothers me, because these folks can come up with a story. They'll say, well, this is what's going on. They're proven wrong. They don't, and when they're proven wrong, they never come around and say, hey, you all, we were wrong. They just go silent and they just go on. And when they're proven wrong to their supporters, the next time these rascals get up here and do something else, their supporters will do the same thing again. And what I mean, certain stories that they push forward have been proven wrong, and the perpetrators, they just go silent. But then the next time they'll do the same thing. Hey, Pook. Hey. They'll do the same thing, and then they'll go right back to supporting these rascals. They'll go right back to supporting and believing anything that they say, instead of saying, hey, wait a minute, they were wrong the last time. Well, maybe this time, we need to check into this and see if they're really telling the truth. But once again, they just fall in line. They just fall in line just like they have before. Even though they've been proven wrong dozens of times before, that doesn't stop them. They're still going to, they call it cognitive dissonance. When you see the truth and you still want to follow the lie, that's what cognitive dissonance basically is. And this type of stuff is real maddening. It's crazy. They get up here, they act like they know everything. They don't know jack squat diddly, but they act like they know everything. And then you got stupid people who follow them, who are like, yeah, these people they're knowledgeable. Yeah, Don Lemon, he's a journalist, so I'm going to believe what he says. But someone else who doesn't think like Don Lemonade, they can tell you the truth and you won't believe it. You'll sit there and say, oh, I gotta wait for the evidence to come out. Well, why didn't you wait for the evidence to come out when someone you supported started carrying a message that really wasn't true? But certain people, they're being arrested, and me, I'm going to be like this. I'm not a person who likes to celebrate someone's shortcomings or something bad happening to them. But I am not. I won't be happy till they arrest Don Lemon. They got one of the leaders, which is good, but Don Lemon needs to be arrested too. Don Lemon is not above the law. Letitia James and, her cohorts talking about nobody is above the law. Okay, well, since nobody is above the law, you need to arrest Don Lemon too. And you need to hit him full force with the charges. And another story came out this week. And this one is crazy, folks. This one right here is pure crazy. Let's see here. Oh, they didn't get rid of the story. Did they get rid of the story? Let me pull this up. See, I had everything laid out and everything, but now they're saying I can't find the page. So let me go. Let me type this up, because hey Pookie, hey, that's my kitty. I think she wants attention. She's been getting on us all day today, because me and my wife, we slept kind of late this morning, and she come in there, meowing and everything. And I thought something was wrong, so I came out see what was wrong with her. She just flopped on the ground, wanted to play with my feet. And I said, okay, she just wants some attention. She's my pretty little girl. Hey girl, hey there, hey. I'm doing a show right now. Did you want to say something on the show? Huh? Did you want to say something? Now she wants to play with my hand and everything. You want to say something? Huh? Want to share your thoughts about what's going on? Let's see. Wait a minute. Let me go back here. All right. Here we go. Now, this was another story. My wife told me about this yesterday. She said, honey, did you hear about the 5-year-old who got arrested by ICE? And when she told me that story, I was like, I said, you know what? There must be something to this story. And when I told my wife that, she was like, yeah, it's something to that story. This is on Fox 11 News. Says horrific smear. ICE did not arrest 5-year-old or use child as bait, McLaughlin says. So the case was that ICE arrested this kid, a 5-year-old child. And of course, the liberal machine wanted to run with this, and they want to smear ICE. They want to smear law enforcement and everything. They want to do this for, because they know there are a bunch of jerks out there who support them, who will believe this no matter what, without saying, wait a minute, let's check this out first. And when I heard about it, I was like, yeah. And then my wife told me what was really going on. And I said, yeah, I figured that ICE is not going to arrest a 5-year-old child. So, once again, this is Fox 11 News, and this is dated January 23rd. So this is yesterday, 5:52 p.m. Washington. Department of Homeland Security spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin rejected allegations that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents targeted or detained a 5-year-old boy or used him as bait during a recent enforcement operation. She called claims a horrific smear and said officers were focused on the child's safety and welfare throughout the encounter, which happened on Tuesday in Minnesota. And her X article says a horrific smear. ICE did not target, arrest a child, or use a child as bait. ICE law enforcement officers were the only people primarily concerned with the welfare of this child. The father and alleged mother abandoned the child. Agitators scared the child. Now, someone comments on Kamala Harris. Y'all familiar with the cackler? She states this on X. It says Liam Ramos is just a baby. He should be at home with his family, not used as bait by ICE and held in a Texas detention center. You see how quickly they run with this? But see, it's hard to be at home with your family if your family has abandoned you, because they don't want to get caught by the feds. They're so concerned about getting caught by the feds, they abandoned their child. She says, I am outraged and you should be too. Yeah, I'm outraged, all right, but not for your reasons. And it goes on, McLaughlin identified the child's father as Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal immigrant from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. She said he ran from the scene as agents approached him, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Conejo Arias, she said. Our officers made multiple attempts to get the alleged mother, who was inside the house, to take custody of her child. Officers even assured her she would not be taken into custody. The alleged mother refused to accept custody of the child. The father told officers he wanted the child to remain with him. Kind of hard to believe that if you just abandon your child. And U.S. Immigration and ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they responded saying, "You're lying for clicks yet again." I think they're talking about what Kamala Harris said. ICE did not and has never used a child as bait. The child was abandoned. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. And it's someone here who says, I think his name is Ken Martin. ICE detained a 5-year-old child in Minnesota to use as bait, an innocent child. America, let this sink in. This is what the government is doing right in front of our eyes. And you know, you got knucklehead, fruit batty people who believe this garbage. Now, from what I heard, the agents took the kid to a McDonald's, which that probably was the wrong thing because they did the same thing with Dylan Roof. But I digress. I'm not going to get into that one. McLaughlin said anti-ICE agitators gathered and started yelling and blowing horns, which frightened the child. Oh, but they care about the children. She said Conejo Arias later asked if the boy could stay with him, adding that they are together at the Dilley Family Detention Center in Texas. Officers abided by the father's wishes to keep the child with him and even got the child McDonald's and played his favorite music, she said. Oh, ICE is so evil. Tricia McLaughlin, he ran away. He abandoned his own child. Our law enforcement officers, they went, they comforted the child, made sure that he was safe. They actually gave him McDonald's. They played his favorite music. I pause because I'm trying to... They tried to bring the child into his mother's own custody. She wouldn't take him. And it's stuff like this that ticks me off because people will believe anything about ICE. If ICE so much as step on an anthill by accident, all of a sudden ICE is evil. And I was debating with somebody on Facebook, and I was telling them this is the same ICE that Obama used to deport millions of illegals back to their countries. And they wanted to say, well, you know, it was done in a more meaningful manner, something like that. More compassionate. They didn't have the Proud Boys and the January 6th. I'm like, what do they have to do with ICE? And see, all they want to do is blame Donald Trump for this. This is the Trump administration. They're using Gestapo. They're using Nazi Gestapo measures to carry out their actions. And I told the person, I said, I don't see them being taken to concentration camps or gas chambers. They're just being deported. But of course, they don't want anything that's logical or sensible. They don't want to hear it because they're so full of cognitive dissonance. But this is what they do. This is how they roll. Smoke and mirrors. You didn't see anything. Oh no, everything bad you seeing is being committed by those on the right. Those people on the right, they're the ones killing everybody. They're the ones committing acts of violence. When we can see anyone with half a brain cell that's firing on all cylinders can see that it's not the people on the left. I mean, on the right that is committing all these atrocities. It's the people on the left. But people they've been brainwashed to the point where they don't want to believe what they see. They want to believe what they are told to believe, or they believe what they want to believe. They have a selective belief system. If I want to believe that this is what's happening, that's what I'm going to do. If I don't want to believe it, I'm not going to believe it, even if it's the truth. But these people, and Hillary Clinton calls people deplorables, but these are the deplorables right here. Let me go on with this article if it's any more to it. Yeah. In her post, McLaughlin also mentioned DHS's new voluntary departure incentive, which DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced earlier this week to mark the first anniversary of the Trump administration's immigration enforcement strategy. Illegal immigrants who leave the U.S. on their own will be eligible for a $2,600 exit payment, Noem said. To celebrate 1 year of this administration, the U.S. taxpayer is generously increasing the incentive to leave voluntarily for those in this country illegally, offering a $2,600 exit bonus, Noem wrote on X. I didn't volunteer that. They did. I didn't volunteer it. Illegal aliens should take advantage of this gift and self-deport, because if they don't, we will find them, we will arrest them, and they will never return, she noted. She shared the news on social media Thursday morning, adding that tens of thousands have used the CBP home program. Noem also said at least 2.2 million illegal immigrants have voluntarily self-deported since January 2025. But see, this is what they tell you. This is what they tell you. They'll make up these stories, and then the news media runs with it, because our news media is basically left wing. I'd say 99% of our news media is left wing, and they're going to run with this, and they want to push the talking points. And that's how they roll. And then even when the truth comes out that what was reported was not true, people are still going to believe it. Let me going back to that protest at that church in St. Paul's Sunday. The people who were in there protesting, they were talking about hands up, don't shoot. People still believe that garbage. That Michael Brown 12 years ago, when he was killed because he attacked a police officer, they believe he was sitting on his knees with his hands up and saying, "Don't shoot, I got my hands up," and the police officer shot him anyway. And they still running with that mantra, hands up, don't shoot. But when people point this out, you just listen to too much Fox News. I don't need to watch Fox News to get my viewpoints. I very rarely watch Fox News. Okay, Fox News got its little problems and everything, but I tell you one thing: give me Fox News and CNN. I will take Fox News before I take CNN any day of the week, because Fox News just came around. Fox News basically came around when all the others were already preaching lies and everything. ABC, CBS, CNN, all the rest of them. Fox News comes in and everyone's like, "Oh, Fox News." And if Fox News is a false news station, they learned it from the best. So you can't blame Fox News. But anyway, let me go on here. Let me go on. Let me go on. Get my stuff together here. Talking about hands up, don't shoot, man. They crazy. Let me go on. Oh yeah, I wanted to share this story right here. Oh my goodness. Folks, as you all know, I'm an American. I'm a black American. You may be asking, well, Southeast Vince, where were you born? Where were you born? Well, I was born in Roanoke, Virginia, October 16th, 1968. I have never left this country. Never. The closest I came to leaving this country, let me get this off of here. I don't. They keep putting these ad blocker pop ups here, and I just shut down my ad blocker, but they still allow ads on Fox News. Allow it. Shut it down. But anyway, let me go here because they're playing the video already, and I don't want to play the video. I just wanted to share this article, and for some reason, my ad blocker. I don't know why it's playing, but anyway, let me go down here. This is the type of maddening thing, and this is the reason why I am very ashamed to have to be a native Virginian, because Virginia, Virginia is one of the most American states you can go to, but and because of its proximity to Washington D.C. Let me let me shut this. Okay, there we go. Um, And this here should madden everybody. This should get everybody ticked off because this some crazy mess right here. It says a new bill proposed by Democrats in the Virginia state legislature is raising concerns regarding the removal of minimum prison sentences for various violent felony crimes. Within days of Democratic Governor Abigail Spanberger, yeah, the lady that a lot of black people voted for instead of the other candidate who was a black woman. But everybody, they think they say we support black causes, but they didn't support the black woman. But anyway, within days of Democratic Governor Abigail Spanberger being sworn in, members of her party introduced a flurry of amendments looking to end mandatory minimum sentences for various crimes within the state. Now, folks, doing something like this is the main reason why we have so many criminals out here on the streets. They get chance after chance after chance until one day they commit a heinous crime. And then everyone is like, well, why did you all keep letting them out? According to Jason Miyares, I think that's how you pronounce it. The former Republican Attorney General, House Bill 863 includes proposals to effectively eliminate minimum sentencing for manslaughter, rape, possession, and distribution of child pornography, assaulting a law enforcement officer, and other repeat violent felonies. Now, why in the world would you want to eliminate the minimum sentencing for those kind of crimes? Child pornography, manslaughter, rape. Are you serious? And see, the voters in Virginia, they were the ones stupid enough to push something like this. Me, if you were to ask me, if you rape a woman or you possess and distribute child pornography, you should get the death penalty. Period. Boom. No questions asked. Assaulting law enforcement officer, life in prison. How in the world are you going to eliminate minimum sentencing for violent crimes? Why, I mean, and this is why we get people like that guy in Charlotte who murdered that girl from the well, she was from Europe. He gets up there, slashes her throat, says, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl." But nobody sees that as a hate crime. Let me go on. Additionally, Democrats are also looking to remove the mandatory 5-day minimum sentence for certain first time DUI offenders. Are you outside of your minds, Virginia? So a person goes to a bar, he drinks more than he should, gets in a car, causing an accident that kills a whole family of people, and you want to remove the mandatory 5-day minimum sentence for that person? And me, I'm like this too. Whether you cause an accident or not, if you're caught, if you're charged with DUI, I give you 10 years. I wouldn't give you 5 years. I give you 10. And if you finish your sentence and you're caught drinking again, then I'll give you 25. Driving while drunk is a serious offense, or it should be. But these people want to get rid of the mandatory sentences. It doesn't make any sense. And you know what? The people in Virginia, the people who voted for this woman, they'll probably look the other way and say, "Oh well, we at least we don't have the right wing black woman in there." HB 863 is a common sense proposal that eliminates the requirement for one size fits all minimum sentences for certain crimes. Delegate Ray Cousins, who sponsored the bill, said, according to ABC 7. Common sense. There's nothing common about that. You know what common sense is? You commit a crime, you do the time. That's common sense. This charge would give the experienced judges in our communities more discretion to make decisions based on the unique facts of each case. As the General Assembly session continues, I look forward to working with my colleagues to pass this legislation and promote fairer outcomes in our justice system. Fairer outcomes. So you release a violent criminal back into society and they kill someone, you think that's fair? And let me stop you right there. You're stupid if you think that. But oh no, we got the Democrats in. At least we don't have them Republicans. However, law enforcement experts are pushing back against the bill, which they should, while expressing concerns about how the possibility of more lenient sentencing could impact victims of violent crimes. From a law enforcement standpoint, I think police generally want offenders to be held accountable, and frustration among law enforcement officers grows when individuals are released quickly and subsequently re-offend. But people want to blame the police officers for all the violence out there. It's the police officers' fault. And a lot of these police officers, they have expressed, not just in Virginia, but everywhere else, they have expressed frustration when they find someone he was charged with a violent crime, and they just get a slap on the wrist by these stupid judges. And if you're listening to this program and you're a judge and you allow one of these people out, if you're offended at me calling you stupid, well then stop being stupid and you won't be offended. From a law enforcement standpoint, I think police generally want offenders to be held accountable, and frustration among law enforcement officers grows when individuals are released quickly and subsequently re-offend, and even more so if it involved a violent felony. Law enforcement expert Josh Ederheimer told Fox News Digital. I think that also tracks the thinking of many members of the public. I think there is more tolerance for flexibility for minor offenses, which it shouldn't be. This is crazy mess, people. This is real crazy. How in the world are you going to? And it seems, and once again, it seems like the criminals get more rights than the victims do. Oh, you're a victim of a crime. We don't care. We care more about the criminals. And I don't understand. I don't understand why that is. Ederheimer, an assistant professor at the University of Virginia Center for Public Safety and Justice and a retired law enforcement officer, went on to explain that police typically understand unique circumstances that can point to a defendant receiving a lesser sentence, but frustration still exists surrounding more serious crimes. For violent felonies, however, the biggest practical concern is that the defendant will reoffend and that the public is not alerted or aware that the defendant has returned to the community. It's an accountability concern that falls on the shoulders of justices and prosecutors. Now, I'm going to say something. You might disagree with me, and you might be right to disagree with me. But I look at it like this: if you're going to be a criminal judge, I think you should be in law enforcement at least for 5 years. That's that's my point of view. I could be wrong, and you might have a reason why I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, just let me know. But I think if you're going to be a criminal judge, you need to be in law enforcement for 5 years, so you can see what a lot of law enforcement officers go through, and you can gain an understanding. But anyway, let me go back to this. Um, the proposed bill allow courts to hand down sentences based on the individual facts of each case rather than statutory mandates implemented by the government. However, it does not impact maximum penalties in such cases. Ederheimer further explained that the bill could have a negative impact on victims and their families regarding accountability for violent offenders. I think that the police and public alike have expectations that convicted criminals will be held accountable and that full sentences should be served, Ederheimer said. Mandatory minimum assure victims, oh, excuse me, mandatory minimums assure victims and the community that a convicted person will serve their sentence, which they should. One thing I get tired of are these plea deals. You know, you're a violent offender and they give you a plea deal and they say, well, certain things, now if you plead guilty to this, we'll lower your sentence and every. No, no. It is the circumstance when convicted felons. I don't know why I'm not reading properly today. It is the circumstance when convicted felons are released early that victims may feel a sense of betrayal or that justice was not served. That's the dilemma. And you know who they usually blame? They blame the police officers. They don't blame the judges. They blame the police officers. It's the police officers. They're the Gestapo because they chase down black people and they yank them out their cars and put guns to their heads. And if they make one wrong move, they might get a bullet to the brain, put them in cuffs, and they throw them in jail. The bill is set to be reviewed by the House and Senate Justice Committees, where it will likely be amended, which it shouldn't be amended. However, Ederheimer added that mandatory minimum sentences may not actually encourage violent offenders not to commit crimes, further adding to the complex balance of maintaining justice and community safety. Yeah, and it doesn't. It doesn't compel them not to commit crimes. I don't know why people don't see that or they don't understand that. From a law enforcement perspective, I don't think mandatory minimums serve as a deterrent. Ederheimer told Fox News Digital. I think that largely defendants are not focused on repercussions at the time of their offense. Yeah, and see, oh boy, I tell you, this is look. Let me tell you something. Like I told you about a couple of weeks ago, what is justice? Justice is protecting victims and making sure that criminals pay for their crimes. That's all justice is. And this is not justice. This is wearing down justice. We always want to talk about just a lot of us don't even know what justice means. We don't know what it means. You know, everyone talking about that lady that got killed a couple of weeks ago, Renee Good. Justice for Renee. I think in that case, justice had been served. They don't know what justice is. They don't know what it is. They always talk about justice for Trayvon, justice for Michael Brown, justice for this one, justice for that one. Justice has been served in all of those incidents. Every last one of those incidents, justice has been served. But they don't care. They want their brand of justice to be served. And I showed you all. I'm going to pull it up again. I like to go to the scriptures sometimes. Uh-oh, why is everything acting so funky today? There we go. And this comes from Ecclesiastes 8:11. And I'm reading from the Berean Standard Bible. When the sentence for a crime is not speedily executed, the hearts of men become fully set on doing evil. Now, what does that mean? It means that when the punishment for a crime is not carried out quickly, it can lead people to feel emboldened to commit more wrongdoing. This verse highlights the importance of timely justice to deter evil actions. Someone needs to share this with me because I never understood when you have declared someone guilty of a capital crime and a death sentence is passed down, that it takes 24 to 30 years to have that sentence carried out. I don't understand that. I guarantee you, crime will go down significantly if a person's been tried for a crime that's worthy of death, and they find out that, yeah, this is the person that did this, and they say, okay, Joe Blow, you've been convicted of this crime, this horrific crime, so you are going to be put to death. I wouldn't give you more than a week. I wouldn't give you more than a week. I could probably tolerate you being there for a month, but no longer than that. But I wouldn't give you a week. I say, okay, the sentence of death has been passed down. We're going to give you a week to think about it. Talk to your next of kin. Pick out your uh, final meal, because in 168 hours from right now, that's a week, you're going to swing or feel lead in your chest, or sit on old Sparky, whatever. Folks, this is, I mean, and even for the less violent crimes, like for robbery or something like that, you carried out a robbery or something. Why we keep giving these people plea deals? Why? And then you have some people say, I don't want to charge them. Nah, charge these rascals. They need to learn. And then when you let these people off, and they meet up with the wrong person defending his family or whatever, defending himself or whatever, they pull out a gun and shoot this person that's attacking them. You want to look at the person You want to look at the victim who protected themselves as the bad guy. Oh, he had a gun. What's he doing with a weapon? Because he's trying to protect those around him. That's why. I find it simply amazing that you have to have a lawyer. If someone breaks into your house, threatens your family and whatever, and you pull out a gun and you kill that person, you get arrested. For what? I'm protecting my family. That is my God-given right. You come in here, you tie up my wife, terrorize my kids, and I get that opportunity to pull out the pepper shaker and sprinkle you with some pepper, and you want to look at me like, oh, you're the bad guy. And then you get these stupid parents talking about, oh, you didn't need to shoot my baby. You didn't need to shoot my baby. The old man, someone tried to break into his home. They shot at him, and that dude ended up killing three of his attackers. And then people get up there, you didn't have to shoot him. And then people want to pass a lawsuit for killing these thugs. I don't understand that. Why do you need representation? And to me, it's a big money grab to me, if you ask me. Why do you need representation? Because you dared protect yourself. You said, look, the only way this is not going to happen is I have to protect myself. I have to be an activist in my own protection. I don't understand. I don't understand the thinking of people. And then and when people come in and say, "Well, you got to be careful with the gun," because everybody is so afraid of a gun. You see a gun, a child, child might be watching TV, and someone pulls out a gun, and parents like, "Oh, why? Oh, I don't want my child seeing no guns. I don't want my child seeing no guns." And see, now you got all these bleeding heart folks talking about we need to cut down on the gun crimes and all this and everything. And then this produces the need to get a lawyer to protect yourself from being sued or going to jail simply because you defended yourself. And it's gotten to the point where if you defend yourself from someone, you're the one that catches all the flack, even down to you fighting the school bully. Let's say there's this bully who's been messing with you and everything, and you took enough for so long, nothing happens to the bully. But then one day you get it in your mind, look, this dude gets in my face, I'm gonna make him swallow some teeth. Dude comes in your face, you fight back, and then they want to suspend you. They want to suspend you for fighting back. Well, why didn't you all suspend the bully? Oh, there's nothing we can do about the bully. But a person wants to protect themselves, and you all are gonna punish. You're gonna punish the victim. That makes no sense to me. And I know this one comedian. He told his son, said, if anyone start, he told his son, don't you start anything, but if someone starts something with you, you finish it. So one day his son his son was getting bullied, and his son put a soup bone to the bully's chin, and they suspended the son. They came in, they said he said, why are you suspending my child? He said, well, we don't allow fighting in here. You don't allow fighting. And he talked to his son. He said, son, did you hit him first? He said, nah, he hit me first. And I finished it, Daddy. I did what you told me to do. He said, "Don't you worry about it." He said, "Yeah, you suspended. Oh, come on, I'm going to take you to Six Flags." But you even got some parents who get mad because their child defends themselves. I know. You defend yourself. Sometimes the parents get mad at their child. What you doing fighting? Well, you told me to defend myself. I ain't mean for you to fight. Well, what do you think was going to happen? Bully hits me, and then I hit him back. The bully said, "Oh, wait a minute. I didn't think you would hit me back. I guess I'll leave you alone." What do you think's going to happen? And then parents going upside the kids' head because they defending themselves. I don't want you fighting. I don't want you fighting. Man, y'all crazy. We live in a crazy world, people. We live in a crazy world. And you know the world is crazy when the victim who says, "I'm not going to be a victim," and they take corresponding action to make sure that they don't become a victim, and because of their corresponding action, it ends up bad for the victimizer. But we want to look at the victim and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." Well, what do you think what am I supposed to do? Just sit here and let him just beat the living iced tea out of me? Well, that's why we got the police. Well, the police, by the time the police get here, I done swallowed about 3 teeth. My jaw's dislocated. I got a black eye, all kinds of scrapes and bruises on me. No, I'm trying to prevent that. And folks, let me tell you all something. Be proactive in your own protection. Be proactive in your own protection. Whatever you need to carry with you to defend yourself, you have a right to do that according to the Constitution. The right to bear arms. And that right should not be infringed, which means it's not a state case, really. It's really not a state decision. That is federal law. It is spelled out in the Constitution, which means if I buy a gun in North Carolina and police pull me over in Arizona and they see a gun in my car, they should not be charging me with having a gun in my car. Now, given if they say, "Hey, do you have a permit for this gun?" I really don't think you should have a permit. But just to stay within the bounds of the law, they say, "Hey, do you have a permit for this gun?" "Yes, sir. I have it right here." Boom. "Oh, okay. You're from North Carolina?" "Yeah." "Oh, this is Arizona." But you know what? That's okay. You have a right to own this, even though this is a North Carolina permit, but you have a right to own this because you're still in the United States. That's how it should be. You shouldn't go like I remember some years ago, this lady, I think she was from South Carolina, and she was driving through Pennsylvania. She got pulled over. I guess she was speeding or something, and they discovered a gun in her car, and they wanted to charge her with having a gun. Now, this woman had a permit. I think she had 2 or 3 kids with her, and she carried that gun because she want. This is a woman, a single mother with kids in the car, and they wanted to charge her with a crime for having a gun in her car. She had a permit and everything, but because she was going through Pennsylvania and they do things different there, they wanted to charge her. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The right to own a gun is a federal law. The right to own a gun is a federal law. You should be if I got my gun in North Carolina, when I travel to the state of Washington and I get apprehended by the cops and they find out I got a gun on me, they shouldn't be charging me for that because their gun laws are different. It shouldn't be different. And people say, "Well, that's the law. That's the law." It's a stupid law. The Constitution says whatever is not listed in the Constitution, that's what they leave to the states. But the right to bear arms is pretty clear. It says it shall not be infringed. But shoot, what do we care? We want to get rid of them evil guns. And the only reason why they want to get rid of guns, the only reason why the powers that be want to get rid of guns is because they want to be able to take control over the citizens without the citizens fighting back. That's the only reason why. And people tell you how evil guns are, and they'll broadcast these tragedies like this one tragedy. This girl was, she was supposed to be with friends, and she decided to sneak home and surprise her father. She surprised her father, and the father shot her dead. They tell you those type of stories, but they don't tell you the stories of people defending themselves with a gun. They don't tell you those stories. They think guns are evil, as if the gun has a mind of its own. The only thing you need to be concerned about with a gun is that finger on the trigger. That's the only thing you need to be concerned about. But people, that, and they always throw around what's constitution, what's unconstitutional. They throw that mess around. They don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. They really don't know what they're talking about. They think they do. They think they're so caught up on the Constitution and what the Constitution says. And now, if something is unconstitutional, you should point that out. Don't just say, "Oh, this is unconstitutional," or "If this is constitutional, you should point that out." But if the Constitution spells out our rights, those rights are not to be infringed unless they invade on someone else's rights. Someone needs to tell that to Don Lemon because he thinks he's such an expert, which really he's a bonehead. And by the way, Don Lemon always talking about racism and everything. Why is he? Why does he have a white partner? I noticed that about a lot of these people. They're always talking about the white man this and the white man that, and they married to a white person. And that white person, I figure that they have AWGS, acquired white guilt syndrome. That's their problem. They're probably uh, they're probably married to these white folks who feel guilty because black folks are being oppressed in this country. Hey, I've been oppressed, but guess what? It was black people that mostly oppressed me when I was growing up. Family, so-called friends, classmates. Those are people that used to oppress me, and a few white people in the mix, but they were not the majority. Anyway, let me go up here. Let me see. I think I got another story up here. Yeah, I want to continue about what I said about Martin Luther King last week because uh, this past Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and people got out there and they were talking about "I have a dream" and all that type of stuff. Now, one thing folks don't realize about Martin Luther King, he would go into a restaurant, and I know this is going to tick a lot of people off. He would go into a restaurant and they say, "Well, we don't allow niggers in here," and he'll be like, "Nah, you're going to accept us. You're gonna accept us. We're gonna come in here and you're gonna accept us." Now, the problem with Martin Luther King and his ilk and those following him, you can't make somebody, girl, get down. You can't make somebody like you. Like if I know you don't like me, I'm not going to force you to like me. And see, that's basically what the civil rights movement was about. They didn't let desegregation happen organically. They didn't let it happen organically. They cried to the government, and they got the government. And basically, what the civil rights movement did was give the government more power. That's all the civil rights movement did, and it helped to expand Marxism in this country. Look, if you don't like me, if I go to your restaurant, and you say, "Hey, we don't allow niggers up in this establishment," then I'd be like, "Okay, all right, well, I'll just find a restaurant that will accept me." But I'll let you know this: if my friends ask me about your restaurant, I'm going to tell them, "Hey, they don't allow black people in there." But I'm not going to get the government and make you allow me to come into your restaurant because I'm not so sure I want to eat that food. You could be putting some powder or something in my clam chowder or something to make me sick or kill me. I'll be like, okay, this person didn't even want me, so hey, let me go to a restaurant where they'll accept my kind. And I'm like this: if you don't like me, I won't force you to do so. Oh, he doesn't like me. Can you come over here and make him like me? I'll be like, okay, you don't like me. Okay, that's your problem, not mine. And see, this is what I'm talking about. See, a lot of people don't see this. They talking about Martin Luther King Jr. as a hero. He is no hero in my book. He's no hero in my book. If I have to make you like me, force you to like me, then that means you liking me is phony. I don't want no phony people around me because those are the worst people to be around. Those are the most treacherous people to be around. They'll smile in your face and then they'll probably stab you in the back. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah. I hate that nigger. But of course, in a little more than a week, we'll be in the beginning of Black History Month, and we'll hear about all the so-called Black heroes and people who gave us a chance. Look at this little girl. Go ahead with your little white feet. But you'll hear about all these Black heroes, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we got to celebrate Black history. This is our heritage." And it's not my heritage. It's not my heritage. We have taken Black history and we try to remove it from the rest of history and say this is ours. No, it's a part of all history. That's what Black history is. It's a part of all history. And see, one thing I understand about history, it's the stain you can't wash out of the fabric of time. You cannot wash the stain of history out of the fabric of time, which means history has already happened. There's no way you can go back. Even though we like to watch these fantasy movies about people going back in time and changing things that happened in the past, you will not be able to go back in time to change the past. The past is a past. It's time to move forward. And this is the reason why a lot of Black people can't get ahead in this country because they still want to hold on to the past. They want to get in their proverbial DeLoreans, time traveling DeLoreans, and go back to a time where Black folks were being oppressed. They want to go back to the civil rights era. They want to go back to the era of slavery. They want to keep bringing up Oklahoma City, 1921, Black Wall Street. Oh, they came in here and Black Wall Street wasn't just a bunch of white people got jealous of black people and said, "Hey, we got to do something about these niggers. They got everything over here. Let's burn them down." That wasn't what happened. But what they don't tell you is within 2 or 3 years, Black Wall Street had been built up, and it stayed that way until the 1960s. They won't tell you that. They'll sit there and they'll tell you, "Oh, they wiped out a bunch of black people." Well, you weren't there. You weren't there then, were you? It didn't affect you. Where I live now in Durham, North Carolina, they had a place called Black Wall Street. I think a lot of cities had a Black Wall Street. But here in Durham, North Carolina, they had a Black Wall Street. Integration came in, forced integration, and all those black owned businesses, the theaters, the banks, and everything, they all got mowed down. Because black people were like, no, we want the white man to accept us. We want to be able to sit with the people who don't like us. Instead of letting desegregation happen organically, which I believe it would have, we wanted to get the government in on it. And the government said, okay, well, that area where you all got all your businesses and everything? We're gonna tear it down and we're gonna put a highway through there. And right here in North Carolina, if you in Durham, North Carolina, if you ever come here and you hear of a highway 147 in Durham, North Carolina, that's where Black Wall Street used to be. And then they try to, bring back the glory of Black Wall Street by setting up certain other businesses around here. I'm like, Black Wall Street's gone. It's not going to rise again because you got black people who think that you have to go to the government to get your handouts instead of making do with what you have. We were success before civil rights. We were successful. We were getting married. Our kids had both parents in the homes. Then the civil rights era happened and took away all of that. But we think the government is our savior. And every election cycle, we always out there, oh, you better go vote, better go vote, better go vote. And y'all go and vote for them very people. You vote for the very same people that tore your communities down. But you don't see it. You vote for the very same people who want to see you wiped off the face of the earth. What am I talking about? Abortion. You want to vote for those same people. Those same people who didn't care about you. Those same people who wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire. But you want to vote for them same people thinking they're going to give you a handout and make life easier for you. And then when you see someone like me who doesn't want the government help in anything, basically, you want to get mad at folks like me and call us coons and sellouts. That's why you need to vote. You need to vote. You need to vote. I get so sick and tired, especially when the year of presidential election is up. I get so sick and tired of them dumb cards in my doggone mailbox. Look, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Don't put them cards in my mailbox. Don't put those cards in my. I already know who I'm going to vote for. I don't need to make a plan to vote. I know who I'm going to vote for. And I don't need you reminding me every second of the day, every time it's election time. I don't need you telling me I need to vote. You better vote. That's how you have your voice. Your vote is your voice. No, it isn't. My voice is my voice. You want to know how I feel about something? Come and ask me. Come talk to me face to face, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Me voting for a certain candidate, that's not telling you anything. You might think it is, but it's not telling you anything. And if I choose to vote, that's my choice. If I choose not to vote, that's my choice. There's no law saying every time an election comes up, you better vote. Now there are certain responsibilities going to voting and everything. I understand that. But if I choose not to vote because I don't like either candidate, don't sit there and tell me that if you didn't vote, you can't complain about what the condition the country is in. Why not? I didn't vote at all. That you want to talk about my voice? Okay, there's my voice. I'm telling you, both of them bunch of dingbats. That's why I didn't vote for either one. I don't believe in choosing the better of two evils. I used to believe that, but I don't believe that anymore. If both candidates are evil, they support evil, they support ungodly stuff, I ain't voting for neither one of them. And you guilt tripping me into voting is not going to help. I'll just sit at home with some popcorn in front of my TV and watch you all duke it out. Now, you want to talk about someone's voice? You want to talk about someone's voice? Come and ask me why I didn't vote. Now, I'll tell you. And I dare you to tell me I can't complain about the condition of this country if I didn't vote. Some of the stupidest stuff I've ever heard in my life. There are a couple of presidential elections I didn't vote in. Really, be honest with you, I didn't start voting until 1996. I ain't know a thing about the voting process or anything. And people were like, oh, you got to vote. You got to vote. Now, I will tell you this. When I registered for my voting card, I listed myself as an independent. I didn't say, Republican, even though a lot of things that the Republicans do, I support. I definitely wasn't going Democrat, but I didn't like either side. And then when I saw there was checkbox next to independent, I said, "Oh, there I am, right there." Because I think both sides are full of a bunch of boneheads. Like they say, they're just two wings on the same bird. That's what I believe. And you can disagree with me about it. You can go ahead. That's fine. You just go ahead and vote the way you want to, and just leave me the heck out of it. Leave me alone. I don't need your guilt tripping. I don't need your gaslighting. You got to understand. We got a right. No, it's not a right. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. And I know a lot of people. They got their ways, and they want to think a certain way. But I'm telling you, I look like I tell people, like I said ad nauseum when I was on Blog Talk Radio. I'm gonna do it again here on Podbean or whatever podcast. I am a free thinking black man. I don't care what you think. If I choose whatever choice I make, if I make that choice, that is my choice, not yours. You can't tell me to make a choice and I don't feel good about that choice. You want to guilt trip me into doing something that I don't want to do. That's crazy. And you see these people out there every time we have an election cycle. Are you registered to vote? What do you think? I'm in my 50s. What do you think? I don't need you telling me if I need to vote or anything. But I know people that they'll disagree with me, and that's fine. That's fine. That is fine. There might be some people who think like I do and whatever, but they still caught up in the voting thing. I get it. I understand why you think like that. But keep in mind, I am making the decision that is best for me. You know, my body, my choice, right? But I don't like people telling me, I don't like people telling me to do something when I don't feel good about doing it. Because a lot of times when I've done that, I look back and I say, dog, I made a big mistake. All I did was let this person influence my choice. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't know how I got off on this voting thing or whatever, but you know, I just don't like people telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do if I know what's best for me. Let me pull up this other, let me do this. And for those of you all who might be in the way of the storms and everything that are coming through, uh, from what I can see now, we've got snow falling right now here in Durham. For those of you all who are in the way of these storms, I pray for your safety and don't do anything foolish out there. Don't drive like a like you're a maniac or something on the roads because it's going to be pretty bad for some people. But anyway, let me pull this YouTube video up. Let me do this. Oh, I need to find a better way to have my stuff queued up and everything. I'm still an amateur when it comes to, and I've been doing this for good gracious, 17 years now, and I still haven't gotten accustomed to how to do videos on YouTube. All I know is to just download a video talking to the into the camera and everything. But I see people they do all these introductions and everything, which is fine. But I just I don't know how to do all that. I'm trying to learn, but let me pull this up. This is a video. I might try to play it in its entirety. I might cut in sometimes, but it says Matt Walsh goes nuclear on Don Lemon.
Matt, well,
And this is a video by Benny Johnson. My wife likes watching him. I've gotten into a lot of Matt Walsh lately. I like Matt Walsh's straightforward commentary. I like his sense of humor a lot of times. And what I like about it is he can utter something that's funny without you know breaking a sweat. He keeps a same serious face, and he'll say something funny and just keep that straight face. It says Matt Walsh goes nuclear on Don Lemon, calls for max punishment, and I agree with him. But let me play this.
back to the program. How you doing, man?
Good, Benny. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm sure that you were celebrating these arrests. Did they surprise you? I know that you've been posting quite a bit about it. Are you happy that the DOJ is taking these actions? Seems pretty aggressive, honestly. I like it.
I'm thrilled. I mean, this is obvious. Everything you just said there is exactly correct. It's exactly what we needed. There's been for conservatives, we are, and I'm I'm the same. I qualify this way also that we're so used to the people in power who claim to be conservative or claim to be Republican not actually doing anything, talking a big game, and then not doing anything, or writing a sternly worded letter or saying, "Yeah, we'll investigate, we'll look into it," and nothing happens. And so we're very used to that happening. And so you can't really blame us for sort of assuming, well, yeah, the same thing's going to happen again. But the difference this time around, and we've seen this not just here, but all throughout Trump's second term, is that we're actually going out and doing the thing too, because you can actually do it. And I think the point that you raise is very good. That these people, these leftists, they turn on each other right away, throwing everybody under the bus, even though it's incredibly clear that he's.
Now, this is something that has frustrated me over the years too, and I talked something about this earlier in the show when, somebody has clearly committed a crime, and you got certain people who call themselves conservatives, Republicans. They say, "Yeah, we're going to get you. We're going to get you," and then they don't do anything. That is frustrating. But they turn a blind eye when one of their own does something, and they just let the chips fall as they may. This is something that has really, really frustrated me, because every time I see something like this come up, they say, "Oh, these guys, they're going to be arrested." I see certain people say, "Oh boy, these folks are in trouble." I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Nothing's going to happen. But this is one of the main reasons why I voted for Trump, because Trump gets things done. Trump doesn't care if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat. He doesn't care. And that's what I like about Trump. I didn't vote for Trump because I'm MAGA or something like that, even though I have no disagreements with Make America Great Again. I don't know why people get so triggered when they hear Make America Great Again. They treat MAGA like it's a church or something like that. Nah, it's saying Make America Great Again. They always talking about MAGA Republicans. No. But Trump is at least trying. Trump is not the type of person who's going to speak up a good game and then doesn't follow up with his words. Now, there are exceptions, but for the most part, he's not the type of person just bounces his lip but doesn't put any feet to it. But let me go on.
Just as guilty, at a minimum, just as guilty as the rest of them. Even if it were true that he didn't know what they were doing, which it isn't. Even if it were true he didn't know what they were doing, he just kind of saw this mob out in the parking lot or something and decided to, tag along to see what they're up to. Well, the moment they walk into the church, now you know what they're doing. It's pretty unambiguous, and you chose to come in and join them, and so you're guilty, even if you didn't know ahead of time, which you did. But they all turn on each other, and that's because they all, just like conservatives have grown so accustomed over the decades to Republicans not doing anything. Uh, the left, they're also very accustomed to that, and so they just assume at this point they can do whatever they want, and there will be no consequences. And that's why they can go out there and they can cosplay as these revolutionaries, and they can play. To them, it's just a game. It's like a big game that they're playing. They assume that there will be no consequences. The moment you start instituting consequences, everything falls apart because they were not expecting this. They're not prepared for it. They didn't sign up for this. They signed up for, let's cosplay as revolutionaries and then go home and scroll TikTok and look at all the comments congratulating us and then go to sleep in our nice homes. And that's it. Like, that's what they thought they were going to get. You start putting in place real consequences and they're all going to fall apart. And I'm thrilled.
Rat eat rat.
And see, this is the thing that really bothers me. The Republicans, they'll sit there and say they're going to do this, but one of their own gets caught up in something, and they're like, "Well, he shouldn't have done that." But then they don't carry that same energy to someone across the aisle when they do something wrong, and they'll sit there, they'll talk a big game, just like Matt Walsh was saying. They'll talk a big game, but then when it comes time to putting feet to that talk, they don't do anything. They're more willing to throw one of their own under the bus just to keep the peace, so to speak. And they think this is gaining them a lot of favor with those across the aisle, and those across the aisle, they're like, okay, yeah, but you're still a Republican. You're still a Trump supporter. You're still a conservative. You're still MAGA. You can give into anything that we say, but you're still this, you're still that. They don't care. Just like this lady Renee Good that I talked about earlier, you know, people are coming up saying, say her name, Renee Good. Now you got black people who don't like that. They're sitting there saying, hey, we don't want you all saying that. That was supposed to be for black people who need injustice, not for white people. And this is the thing I've always said. I've said that, at the end of the day, you white folks with the AWGS, again, that's acquired white guilt syndrome. Those of you all with AWGS, y'all get out here. Hey, black people, we're with you. We're with the cause. Golly gee, Willikers. Yes, it is wrong for other people like me to oppress you. I saw a video where this black guy wanted this lady to kiss his feet. They still see you as a white person. They still see you as a white person. Even though you are supporting their cause, you're still an evil white person to them. And that's the same thing here. And I don't know why the Republicans don't find out who took their spine out their back and snatch that spine back and put it back in their back. But Donald Trump gets up here, and the Republicans don't like him either. Because Donald Trump is about getting things done. He might not get everything done that he wants to, but he's about to get things done. Let me go on.
There's absolutely no honor among thieves. Don Lemon immediately turned on the organizers, even though he's on camera kissing one of them, bringing them coffee. He went to the altar of the church. Matt, I know you've done quite a few controversial documentaries, but if you ever stormed a mosque and ran up to an imam and put a microphone in his face and disrupted their service, how fast do you think you'd be in jail?
Yeah, I don't think I'd make it to my car. Well, I think I might have consequences that are more immediate than jail if I were to storm a mosque. But if I somehow survive that, then I don't think I'd make it to my car. And also, by the way, talking about the left not anticipating consequences, the FACE Act itself, of course, was designed by the left to put these special protections in place for abortion clinics. Which, of course, an abortion clinic is not an establishment that should have any special protections at all. It didn't exist in the first place. But it shouldn't have any special protections at all. But that's what the FACE Act was for. They kind of threw in this other stuff about, oh, yeah, well, this will apply to houses of worship, just to get the bill through and to make it seem like, oh, well, this is, it's to help both sides. But they didn't actually they never intended for this thing to be used to actually prosecute leftists who are interrupting churches, and so this is and yet that's what the law says, and so we can enforce it, and we should, and so they never anticipated any part of this, and they're finally reaping what they sow.
What should happen to Don Lemon, Matt?
Well, go through the book, right? Look at the book. Talk about throwing the book at someone. Well, go through it and find every possible crime that you can charge him with legally. And there's a bunch. It's not just one. Find every crime you can charge him with every single one down to the letter, and then give him the maximum possible sentence for every single one. In other words, do to him exactly what the left does to us. Do to him exactly what the left did with the January 6ers. Just do that. Do exactly what the left would do. To use your example, if I, as a quote right-wing extremist, stormed a mosque under a Democrat administration, what would they do to me? Let's just ask that. What would they do? Well, the answer is I'd be in prison for a very long time. They would make sure that I wake up for the rest of my life until I die regretting having done that. It's going to ruin my life. I'm going to regret it every second of my day. They would make sure of that. And that's exactly what should happen to Don Lemon. I want him to wake up every single day, and the first thought in his head is, my God, I wish I had never done that. But he did, and now he should reap the consequences to the maximum possible degree.
So Don Lemon, I didn't know that you could possibly be this mentally handicapped, but he did go on Dylan Mulvaney's grandmother's podcast immediately, and he ran there right as we were broadcasting with Harmy Dillon. Harmy Dillon said, listen, Don Lemon is better be careful here, because if we find out here at Civil Rights that there was some racial element to this, that these BLM activists, these primarily black activists, that you could see the group, were attacking a church because of their race, because they thought that it was a white church, then there's going to be some real accelerant to our charges. There's going to be some potential hate crime charges there. And those are the kind of things that stick 20, 30 years, right? This is the kind of stuff that, that really just properly destroy your life and make sure that you'll die an old person in prison. And Matt, within the hour of Harmy saying that on our show, Don Lemon goes on this lady's program, which I'd like to get your take on, whatever Jennifer Welch is, which I don't know. It looks like a really bad Terminator exoskeleton or a skin suit, or some type of either robot or alien, whatever it is. He goes on there and he straight up says, it's white people, bro. I did this because they're white and they have white privilege, and they're dripping in their white privilege and they don't understand it. And that's why we went there, to terrorize their children. He just he says it. So again, to the metaphor of like you doing this to a mosque, if you were stupid enough to go out and say, yeah, I'm doing this because they're brown or because I don't like Middle Eastern people, and you just go on the podcast and say, dude, you'd be cooked. You'd be done for, bro. You'd never see your children again. You'd be finished. What again? Like I just lucky for. I mean, it's a gift from God to have stupid enemies.
Yeah, and well, in terms of Jennifer Welch, whatever her name is, I've said that to me, she looks a bit like, and I don't mean this as an insult, it's just true. I think she looks a bit like Willem Dafoe's trans older brother, or like maybe if the Joker escaped Arkham and then became trans and started a podcast, it's a little bit what she looks like. But again, it's just a description. I mean, as an insult. In terms of Don Lemon, it is pretty amazing that he, just goes right. Like maybe it's some kind of argument he could try to make that, well, I didn't intend this. I didn't know what was happening. This was not racially motivated. I was like, he could have tried that, but instead he just goes out in public like, yeah, it's about white people. I hate white people. And so the consequences are very clear. But keep in mind, I mean, these are people, again, you go back to 2020. I mean, they were storming police stations in the middle of cities and burning them to the ground with no concern about any consequences at all. This is what they're used to. I mean, they're coming from a world where, hey, we can like burn entire city blocks to the ground and throw cement blocks at cops, and most of us won't go to jail. That's what they're thinking. And so in that context, like, well, we could burn a police station to the ground and not have any consequences. So, like, of course we could just storm a church. I mean, that's nothing compared to that. But I think they're so that, the daffing around part is done. We're in the finding out phase finally, and I couldn't be happier about it.
I did want to touch on one.
And see, this is the thing too. We let these people get away with this type of activity. We let them go out there, they do their thing and whatever, and then we look the other way. This is a problem I have with the Republicans. This is why I don't want to be a Republican. Let me, it's a lot of things that I agree with them over the Democrats, but they're spineless. You need to meet these folks with the same energy. You need to point out certain instances where the Democrats were guilty of the same thing. You say, hey, y'all, you all over here getting on us for what we did. Now you're doing the same thing. What are you going to do about that? But see, this is why we have such a disparity between the sides. This is why I don't like politics, because it creates a disparity between the sides where you say, okay, well, one of our own has done this, we'll overlook it. We'll just overlook that. But no matter what the other side does, if they do the right thing, if they tell the truth or whatever, we don't care what they do. We're still against them. But the Republicans, they're really going against their own cause because they won't meet with the same energy. And even when they get into power, things still don't happen. They get up here, they say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. That's why when, what's his name, Mitt Romney, people were saying back in 2012, people were saying Mitt Romney, oh, he's going to get rid of Obamacare and everything. I said, no, he isn't. I said, he ain't going to. And that's why I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. Because it was going to be business as usual, even if he did get elected. Mitt Romney wasn't going to do jack squat diddly. And people on the radio, people like Sean Hannity, they were like, yeah, he's going to get rid of Obamacare. No. I said, he ain't going to do anything. And that's one of the main reasons why I didn't vote for Trump that first time he ran in 2016. But what changed my mind on Trump, I was like, oh, wait a minute. He's actually trying to do something. That's why my attitude changed on Donald Trump. My wife was telling me, hey, Donald Trump is going to be the dude. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm sick. I was sick of politics. I really was. Still am. But when I saw Donald Trump was at least trying, attempting to do something, I was like, oh, dog, wait a minute. This Trump guy, I hadn't seen anyone who had at least tried to make their promises since Ronald Reagan. And back when Ronald Reagan was running, I was young and dumb. I couldn't tell you the difference between a Democrat or a Republican back then. I couldn't tell you the difference between the two. And basically, I grew up in a liberal household, and we were told that the Republicans don't like black people, and the Democrats love black people. So I was sitting there just listening to them. I couldn't tell you I really couldn't tell you the difference between a Democrat and Republican. And it took me years to really determine who was who and who did what and everything. But even then, I still registered as an independent because I'm sick and tired of these folks getting up here. They talk a big game. They sit there. They say, "Oh, this is what we're going to do," and then they get in the seat to do something, and they don't do jack squat diddly. But these are the same people. Every time the election cycle comes around, they want to tell you, "Oh, you better vote. You better vote." What you gonna do if I vote for you? Oh well, I will stand up for civil rights. I don't need you to stand up for civil rights. What are you going to do? And if I was some of these politicians, and someone got in my face talking about what you gonna do for black people, I'll be like, I'm gonna do for the black people what I'm gonna do for everybody else. Y'all ain't special. I tell you what are you gonna do for yourselves? What are you gonna do to clean up your communities? Because you've been complaining about your communities and cops over policing in your communities. You've been making those complaints for decades and nothing has changed. What are you going to do? Stop depending on me to do. I'm going to do what I need to do for everybody. I'm not going to do something for a certain group of people, and then I come to the black folks and I say, "Oh, well, I got to treat them different. I got to treat them better. I'm black. So I gotta treat them. No, I'm not gonna treat you any different. When are you all gonna rise up and teach your kids to respect authority? When are you all gonna rise up and go into your communities and say, hey, no more drugs? When are you all gonna rise up and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to listen to the people on the other side. Because these liberals been telling me all these years that they're gonna do something, but let me hear what the people on the other side have to say. And don't sit there and talk about, well, how come Republicans don't come? How come they don't come into our neighborhoods? I'll tell you why they don't come to your neighborhoods, because they know they're not welcome there. You don't want them there. You come there, you heckle them, you make you make fun about them, but your buddies, the Democrats, the liberals, they come into a neighborhood and they got your ear. Oh yeah, yeah. So I was watching YouTube the other day, and you all know that lady Pam Grier. She was a big thing in the 70s and the 80s and even into the 90s because it was like, people were like, "Oh, man, she's old, but she still looks good and everything." Everybody was all into Pam Grier and whatever. Pam Grier, she gets on The View, she wants to join the cackling hens on The View, and she gets up there and she said her mother, they were walking through a neighborhood, and her mother, they were in, Columbus Columbus is the capital city of Ohio, and, said, now, given Pam Grier was born in 1949. I didn't know she was 3 years younger than my mom. My mom was born in 1946. But Pam Grier was born in 1949. And she said one day she was going through the neighborhood and, her mother told her to look away because there was a person hanging in the tree. The last lynching that happened in Ohio or Columbus, Ohio, was in 1911. And the person they lynched in 1911, that person survived. So the last fatal lynching occurred in 1890. And if I'm correct, if I say anything wrong, please correct me on this. But I think there were only 20 lynchings in the entire history of Ohio. Now, Pam Grier was born in 1949. The last lynching in Ohio happened in 1911. So once again, you get these people up here and they nobody pushes back on that because oh, we're liberals here. Yeah, oh wow. You saw people hanging from trees. Now my mom my mom, I got a mom, aunt, and whatever that grew up, in the South. My mom was born in Bristol, Tennessee. Her her siblings, they were all born in on the Virginia side of Bristol. Bristol is right there on the Virginia Tennessee border, and my mom was the only one born on the Tennessee side. Not one time did they share to me a story about seeing people hanging from a tree. And people, keep this in mind. It wasn't only black people that were being lynched; there were white folks being lynched as well. But she sits there. She talks about, and see, I can see the attitude of these people, them harpies on the View. I can see their attitude change based on who they're interviewing. You get a conservative up there, they got that little smirk on their. But someone like a Pam Grier or Michelle Obama come on there, they're like, "Oh wow, okay, so what do you think about this?" And oh, really? They won't do that with a person who's a conservative because they already got them figured out. And people in the audience, they're like barking seals. Oh. But none of them will push back. Nobody will go back and say, wait a minute, I heard what she. Let me check this out because people like the host of The View, Pam Grier, and all the rest of them, they want to feel like they're perpetual victims all the time. They always want to feel like they're perpetual victims because they believe that's how they get a lot of sympathy from other folks. As long as I play victim, as long as I do a good job of it. Now, keep in mind, Pam Grier was an actress. She's an actress. So she's going to go up there and act. Something Whoopi Goldberg should have been, She should know that herself because she's an actress too. Now, did any of them say they saw anyone hanging from a tree or whatever? And like I said, my folks grew up in Jim Crow, 40s, the 50s, the 60s. Now, one time did they ever share to me, say, yeah, we were walking down the street and we saw two black men hanging up in a tree by their necks. And that's not to say that lynching didn't go on. Yeah, it went on. Too many people got lynched. I think during the entire history of Jim Crow, I think 4,000 people got lynched. Correct me on that. But among that 4,000, there were white folks who got lynched too. And I think the last lynching that occurred in this country was in 1998. What's his name? Bird. He was abducted by some white supremacists in Texas. This is in 1998, and they dragged him behind the truck. And I heard that they dragged him so bad that he was split in half. But I think that was the last lynching that happened, and even then, that was a rarity. That was a rarity. And folks, let me tell you all something. Lynching does not always involve hanging. All you need is a lawless crowd of people come up on somebody and they execute their brand of justice on that person. That's what lynching is. Bunch of lawless people who want to play back. What do they call them people that take the law into their own hands? I forgot what they call them. Vigilantism. They want a bunch of vigilantes. They want to execute their own justice on somebody. So they take the law in their hands and they execute that judgment on a person. And usually it's done without trial or jury. Well, folks, um, coming down to the end of my program. Once again, I want to give out my concerns for those of you all in the way of this storm. From what I've seen, we're supposed to be in the middle of this storm. We're supposed to get ice and whatever, and I'm hoping that my electricity doesn't go out. I'm hoping I'm able to go to work on Monday, but if not, if I'm here, I hope my electricity is still working. Because we've had an ice storm come through here back in 2002. I think I said this at the beginning of the show. Came here in 2002, and our power was out for a week. And I hope that's not the same thing here because it's supposed to be really cold. It's cold out there right now. It's below 20 degrees outside right now, and it is cold. I went outside today, kind of in the middle of the day. The sun hadn't gone down or whatever, but it was cloudy, and I stepped outside, and man, it was so cold. Even the slightest breeze just felt even colder. But those of you all in the way of this storm, I hope you all stay safe, stay warm out there. Next week, God willing, I should have me another show. If not, well, I'll let you know. Just I got to get my contact information and everything up to speed, and because I'm still trying to learn the ropes of Podbean, trying to get some things squared away and whatever. But anyway, you all stay safe out there, stay healthy, and don't just listen to anything and just take my word for whatever you hear on this show. Check it out, go research or whatever. We got Google and whatever. Just check out what I'm talking about because I really want you to get something out of what I'm saying. But don't take my word for it, okay? But anyway, you all stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. This is Vincent E. Brown. I'm signing off. And until the next time, I'll see you on the rebound. You are listening to WVEB Truthsharks Radio.